The Rattlebang Picnic by Margaret Mahy. Pictures by Kellogg. Just married. When Jack McTavish married sweet Marion McGillicuddy, they counted their money and talked things over seriously. "We can afford either a wonderful speedy car that never breaks down, or we can have lots of children," said Jack McTavish. "What a pity we can't have both." "Well, perhaps we can have a few children, just 6 or 7, if we make do with an old car," suggested the new Mrs. McTavish. "That's a good idea," cried Mr. McTavish, looking pleased. "We'll have 7 children and get by with an old Rattlebang." So the McTavishes had 7 children: Travis, Tessa, Alice, Matilda, Taylor, Winnie, Malcolm. All aboard, and they drove an old Rattlebang. "You have done the right things," said Jack McTavish's mother, Granny McTavish. She liked having grandchildren. "We can all go on picnics in the Rattlebang, and I will make pancakes and pizzas to eat." So there they are. It says, "Park here for the shark park, picnic area," but you have to walk down. Now, Granny McTavish was a very good grandmother, but she was not a good cook. Her pies and pizzas were tougher than old boots. The trouble was, she always baked everything for an hour or 2 at a very low temperature, and it toughened things up. So you could use her pies, pizzas, or pancakes as frisbees, or bowl them along the beach, but you just couldn't bite them, even if your teeth were strong. One day, Marion McTavish, who was famous for being adventurous, said, "We've often been on picnics to the beach or to the river. For our next picnic, let's drive to the very tip-top of Mount Fog." "Yes, yes, yes," called the 7 McTavish children and Granny McTavish in one voice, for they were all adventurous as well. However, Jack McTavish looked grave. "I'm not too sure that's a good idea," he said. "The road's windy and rocky, and we have only the old Rattlebang to get us there. Pieces keep dropping off." "Oh, I'm sure we'll be just fine," cried Mary McTavish. "We're longing to climb the mountain and swim in the hot springs." "All right, we'll risk it," Jack McTavish decided. So the next day, Mr. McTavish, Mrs. McTavish, the 7 little McTavishes, and Granny McTavish piled into the old Rattlebang and set off for Mount Fog. It was a beautiful morning. A plume of pure white cloud floated around the top of the mountain. The old Rattlebang struggled up the windy rocky road, bumping and banging and backfiring, then stopped right beside the hot springs. Everyone plunged into the warm water and swam happily up and down. Later, they dried themselves by jumping over the hot air geysers that blew between the rocks. "This is perfect," said Mr. McTavish, setting out the lunch. "I can't think why more people don't picnic here." The only disappointment was Granny McTavish's was the pizza that she had made. It was so hard that it bent the picnic knife. Even banging it with sharp rocks failed to chip any piece free. After an hour of hard work, the little McTavishes had only managed to grind a hole in the middle of it. Apart from that, the pizza was quite unyielding. "Well, it probably wouldn't be good for us anyway," said sensible Mrs. McTavish. "We'll make do with cupcakes and apples." That sounds good. So after a delicious cupcake apple lunch, they stretched out in the sun to rest before setting out for the top of Mount Fog. As they dozed, they were surprised to feel the mountain jiggling and rumbling beneath them, as if it too were digesting an agreeable lunch. Suddenly, there was a great volcanic roar. The ground shook violently. The white clouds surrounding the peak turned gray, and then black and red hot lava poured down the mountainside. "Quick, everyone in the car!" cried Mr. McTavish. So they all piled into the old Rattlebang and set off down the rocky, winding road, bumping and banging and backfiring while the red-hot lava burbled furiously after them. "This car is going very well for an old Rattlebang," said Granny McTavish. But just as she spoke, the car gave a sickening lurch. The wheel had fallen off the Rattlebang. It went bowling swiftly down the rocky road ahead of them, struck a stone, and leaped out into limitless space. Down, down, down it fell, becoming smaller and smaller until it vanished completely. And behind them, the 10 McTavishes could hear the sinister hiss of the red-hot lava flowing toward them. "No screaming now, everyone. Think quickly," Mr. McTavish said. "Granny's pizza!" his 7 children cried together. "Put Granny's pizza on the old Rattlebang." So hastily, Mr. and Mrs. McTavish jacked up the old Rattlebang, trying not to notice the hot lava creeping closer and closer. Then Mr. McTavish banged the pizza onto the axle using an iron mallet, which they always carried in case of emergencies, while Mrs. McTavish rubbed the axle with what was left of the picnic butter so that the pizza would spin around smoothly. By now, the red-hot lava was getting very, very close. "All right," said Miss Jack McTavish briskly, "let's give it a whirl." Everyone piled back into the old Rattlebang as the red-hot lava rose behind them like a tidal wave. The engine sputtered and coughed and then burst into life. Off they went, bumping and banging and backfiring down the winding rocky road, leaving the volcano and the red-hot lava far behind. The old Rattlebang may have looked a little strange with a pizza in place of a wheel, but none of the McTavishes cared about that. How wise we were to have 7 children instead of a speedy new car, exclaimed Mr. and Mrs. McTavish, smiling at each other. And how wise I was to cook that pizza for an hour and a half at a low temperature, thought Granny McTavish. What a wonderful picnic, the 7 McTavish children murmured to each other. Perhaps for our next picnic day, we can all pile into the old Rattlebang and go to Tornado Valley. That would be fun, too. And they banged and bumped and backfired all the way home in perfect safety. The end.